This afternoon we have an obscure literary writer named Dave Barry.
Yeah.
Dave,
I'm
welcome.
one of those genre guys.
You are one of those genre
That I
guys.
already have arcs to my stories and themes.
You are. Your new book is Insane City, your first novel in a decade.
Yeah. Well, yeah, by myself novel.
By yourself, right, right. What were you doing in between?
Oh, I wrote a bunch of young adult fiction with Ridley Pearson, Peter and the Starcatcher series, and then I wrote, I co-wrote well, I won't call it an adult novel because it's pathetically juvenile, but I wrote a novel. It has a lot of dirty words in it, so whatever genre that's, with Alan Zweibel. And I said, I got to stop collaborating with people. So I had an idea for a novel, and that's what became Insane City.
Tell us about Insane City.
Well, the original idea was my son got married and about 4 years ago, and so I got to watch firsthand everybody I guess knows how crazy, and I'm not going to single out any one particular gender, but women get when they get married in this country. It's just bizarre what happens to them. And my daughter-in-law, I love her. She's great, but she went completely insane, and the wedding industrial complex got its hooks into her, and next thing you know, they're talking about all the stuff they talk about, place settings and everything. So I thought I wanted to write a novel about a wedding, but I always want to write my novels set in Miami because I love Miami, and it's great. It's just a great setting. So I decided to write about a wedding that comes to Miami and just goes horribly wrong, and that became Insane City.
Yeah, yeah. You started out in Pennsylvania, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, my newspaper career.
Your newspaper career.
The Daily
right.
Local News in Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Love that name.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, yes. And
We actually ran a headline while I was there: "Woman beats off would-be rapist." We'll have to cut that out of this interview, but it actually did happen, Chauncey.
that's classic. Leave it in. And you were just a City Side beat reporter?
I was
You were the reporter?
I was I did well, it's a little paper, so you did everything. I covered the borough of Downingtown. I went to the regional sewage commission meetings, the school board meetings, borough council meetings. I went to a lot of meetings. Some of these meetings are still going on. They're long, boring meetings, and I would write long, boring stories about them.
Yeah.
And but I would take obituaries, go to fires, had a police scanner in my car. All that stuff, which was really, it was great. I learned everything I learned about journalism, I learned in the first 3 months at the Daily Local News. Because if you work for a little town paper and you get somebody's name wrong, that person is going to call you.
Yeah.
So I just learned the basics of that. But the beauty of it was because it was a little paper, they would let you do stuff. So if you did everything else you're supposed to do, you could write a column. And I wrote a weekly column, which ultimately became my humor column.
Yeah. I had the same experience, Cleveland Daily Banner in Cleveland, Tennessee.
Cleveland, the Daily Banner, dude.
Yep.
Now let me ask you this: the Daily Local News only came out 6 days a week. We didn't publish Sunday.
Oh, we didn't publish Saturday.
All right.
It was an afternoon paper.
Ours, we were an afternoon paper too.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I learned was, and there aren't any left, but it's a much better thing to work for an afternoon paper than a morning paper.
We're talking about pre-Cambrian journalism.
There's we should explain very young. A paper. You're not going to believe this, kids. They kill a tree, cut it down.
You've been a superstar for so long. Probably nobody asks you much about how it started, but I remember when you were syndicating your column and 2 or 3 newspapers bid for you, including the Washington Post.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Well, the very first bidding that I had to deal with was I was working. I had left the Daily Local News. I wasn't working for any paper, but the Philadelphia Inquirer and the Philadelphia Daily News started publishing. Both of them publishing my stuff, and then the Miami Herald and other papers started picking up that stuff. So the first real time I realized I was maybe going to be able to quit having a job and work as a columnist was when the Miami Herald and the Philadelphia Inquirer both offered me jobs, and it was really it was heady for me. I got flown down to Miami to meet with John McMullen, who was then the editor of the Herald, and it was in Philadelphia Inquirer. I was taken to dinner by Gene. Oh shoot, I can't remember his name.
Weingarten?
No. Gene. Oh, he's Gene Roberts,
Yeah.
who is a legendary editor up there. When they were winning Pulitzers after Pulitzer after Pulitzer, and they both tried to get, and it was great. And the one I should have done by any rational standard would have been the Philadelphia Inquirer, because I lived in Philly. They were winning Pulitzer after Pulitzer. And the Herald was just kind of the wild and crazy Miami Herald. But I really liked the editors down here, Gene Weingarten particularly. And they said, we don't care what you do, just come work for us. Whereas the Inquirer had, okay, you're going to do 3 a week, and we're going to be at 4 in the morning, you have local at least once or twice. They had all these ideas that I should do. And it really wasn't what I was doing. I was just writing essays, really. Right. So I picked the Herald, which turned out to be the right call.
Plus, you were tired of living in the United States, right?
Well, I do, though. I got to tell you, they flew me down here, and I honestly came down here, and they did a terrible job because they're journalists of showing me around the city of Miami. They completely got everything wrong. They never took me to any nice neighborhoods because they thought it was funny. Look over here, you can rent a machine gun, I'm thinking, like, this is a great place to write about. There's no way I'm bringing my family here. So the deal was, I said, I don't want to live in Miami. They said, well, we'll hire you anyway. That's how they were, like, loose that way. So for the first 3 years, from 83 to 86, I lived in Philly, suburban Philadelphia, and wrote a column for the Miami Herald. I was the Miami Herald's humor writer. But during those 3 years, I'd come down to visit, to do big features for Tropic, whatever, and to talk. And I fell in love with Miami. I got to see it, the other side of it, and I loved it, and I've still loved it. So I moved here on purpose.
Did you see that big story the New York Times did a week or so ago about how Miami is doomed?
No, we're going to go underwater now.
Yeah,
The New York Times is always dooming us, one way or another.
Yeah. Well, and I immediately thought of you because you won your Pulitzer.
I did. I won the Pulitzer Prize largely by mocking a New York Times story called "Can Miami Save Itself?"
Yeah.
In 1987, the New York Times, using its vast information gathering resources, determined that Miami had a problem with drugs and violence. After everyone else had known this for at least 10 years, and they did this big takeout for the Sunday magazine, Can Miami Save Itself? So we thought, well, thank you, first of all, New York Times, for discovering that we have these issues. Let's return the favor and see if New York has any problems. So I went up there with a photographer named Chuck Fadley and spent 3 days just looking at everything we could find that was awful about New York City, which was a lot in those days. And yeah, that story was the kind of the heart of the Pulitzer entry, I believe, that one. Yeah. And I believe the reason the judges gave it to me is because I later became a panel member for the Pulitzers after I won one. You're in New York in the winter, and it's horrible. You're just like all day long reading Pulitzer entries, and you're in New York, and New York. It's not really easy to be getting around. So I think there was just hostility that got me the Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Dave, because of you and your first book and the movie that was made from it, I got to meet Sofia Vergara.
Oh yeah.
Before anybody in America knew who she was.
I know, and when the movie came out, they did all this publicity here. This is like one day before 9/11, which completely crashed and burned the movie. But this guy named Todd Tongen, TV guy, had this thing where he would drive you around in a taxi and interview you, and a camera and everything. That was his thing. So my day with Todd was me and Sofia Vergara in the back seat of his taxi driving around, and I thought, wait, this could just go on forever. She is one amazing woman.
Are you done with the Peter Pan stuff, or does that still has legs, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, we're done. I think we're done.
Done with the writing, but
I think we completely, milked that turnip, or whatever the cliche is I'm looking for. But it was still, it got adapted by Rick Ellis, who wrote Jersey Boys, into a pretty wonderful play that kind of uses our story, but it's very different and great. And then it may be a movie. And if it is, it might be a good movie because it's got this guy named Gary Ross, who directed The Hunger Games, who has a reputation for being really thorough about adapting the original work.
Are you sad that Mary Martin's not around? We've made all these jokes that nobody under 50 is going to.
I know you're going to say, who's Mary Martin? What are they talking about? Even when I was a kid, Mary Martin, for you youngsters who don't know what a newspaper is, Mary Martin was this middle-aged actress. She was a very good actress, but for some reason, every year they put her on as Peter Pan. And when I was a kid, I think, what? Yeah, it's just like, what's this grown lady? And you can see the wires, holding her on, going, I got a crow. I don't know. That wasn't my image of Peter Pan.
Dave Barry, the new novel is Insane City. Thanks for stopping by.
My pleasure, Chauncey, anytime.
Okay.